Hello, welcome to my second video where I do a voiceover because I recorded all this without sound, very foolishly. And the first video where I start using GPT-4. This footage dates a while back because we're now May 17 and the footage is from March 14. So that's almost 2 months. But yeah, all the video editing and everything and publishing and stuff cost me a lot of time, I had a lot of things to learn, a lot of errors were made, etc. So in the last video, I finished implementing my grid. Well, finished air quotes. I'll probably have to go over a few things that, because even while editing everything and doing the voiceover, I learned new things, and also I saw things I want to do differently, etc. So even although it was a big hassle to do the voiceover, etc., it was pretty useful in the sense that I saw what I did. I saw things. Like I said, I learned other things that I was like, oh wait, I can do it like that. So it was useful in other ways that I explained in my video. That besides, I need to be more precise in what I record, etc. So in this video, I start another point on my list. My the list of points, like I need to create another grid first, and then I'm going to try to place and move my first unit on the board. For that to be able to place it and to move it, I need all kinds of other sub functionalities. So I'll try to split them up in these videos. So yeah, let's go. Again, I'm playing the media, the footage in OBS, and I record my voice over on top of it. So here, this is old code I had for making a unit list on tiles, and I had related that, or what is it called, to a tile position. That would be multiple positions that tiles could have. I thought to make a list on each of those positions, and I'm using a hash map because apparently when I made this, for some reason I thought hash map was a good way to do that. So I'm doing some research on what the best data structure would be instead of a hash map, and I'm looking at an array list here. I'm not sure if I show it here, but I did research on multiple data structures, and here I'm looking for some example code on the redblobgames.com website, which I love, which I showed before. Which is a beautiful resource for everything grid related, etc. Animated and all, with all kinds of different ways of implementing grids and different orientations, etc. With example code, sometimes in multiple programming languages, but also just mostly focused on the principles of all those things. A really beautiful website. I love it. I used it years ago as well. It's a shout out to Red Blob Games. It's really beautiful stuff. Not sure where I was. And I had some neighbors code in my code already, but that was for a grid of squares. They only have 4 neighbors, not even diagonal neighbors. And I need a grid of I need the neighbors to be found in hexagonal grid, which is different, with 6 neighbors each. And here I'm asking ChatGPT if an array of an array list can contain multiple units of the same time, so multiple instances of a class, and it confirms it can, etc. This is still about me, finding out the best data structure for to contain the units on the board. Here I'm wondering on something that's very conceptual. I use in the board elements in the draw method. I use my method to transform the x and y coordinates depending on the position in the array, the WH coordinates in fact in the array. And I'm wondering, put it on pause because I'm scrolling. That was because in the whole video about grids, implementing the new grid, I am I get stuck for a long time because I didn't I used the method to define the points to draw um, the shapes, but I used a way that didn't transform those coordinates with those coordinates, in fact. So they were all drawn on one location, on the zero location, on the origin location. And that made me wonder, yeah, it was some kind of a brain fart, but it did help me understand some concepts better. I think I talked, like I said, I think I talked about it before, but I made an annotation here like why I do that transformation in the draw function and why I don't do that before. What did I say? Yeah, that I only create a structure out of it when I draw it. And then later it dawned on me that, yeah, in fact, the everything that is in the array and all the tiles and everything, it has the WH argument and thus its coordinates, but it only matters where it is on the screen when it's how do you call it, when it is drawn on the screen, when it's transformed to screen space. Otherwise, in the code, it doesn't matter where it is. It's just that's I realized later that the functionality in the code, in the arrays, etc., the data in there doesn't need anything, doesn't have anything to do but where it's on the screen. I can do all kinds of things with that data to put it on the screen. I just need something like those coordinates to have a logic structure and to be able to calculate neighbors, etc., stuff like that. And I must say it can be a bit confusing sometimes because you do have all kinds of functionality in Java that does have interaction with the screen, like my highlight function when I mouse over, etc. You can do intersection of shapes. You can do all kinds of things with shapes, but that's very high level with a lot of how do you say it, uh, libraries and stuff behind it. So that might sometimes be a bit confusing when you're a beginner because it seems like the code and the stuff on the screen is somehow related to something in physical space, in green space, etc. So I was kind of confused, but in the end, it helped me better understand the relationship of those things to one another, a bit at least. Huh? A long way to go because before everything is clear, everything that will probably be never. So this is my board. That's the last. That's where I ended with implementing the new grid. I'm trying to call the set xy for wh method in the constructor, which might work. I'm not sure. No, no, no. Now it draws everything on top of each other, like when I was trying to implement a new grid. At least it puts it on another spot than on the upper left corner, like I was stuck on in the grid video. I shared some classes to ChatGPT and asking it why it's only drawing one instance of the grid class, which I'm not sure. Was it drawing one instance of the grid class? Go back. Was it drawing? No. No, it seems more like it's drawing multiple. Oh, wait. Multiple instances on one on top of the other, because when it's solid white, that's the case in principle, because only otherwise it's just a vague. Yeah, it's drawing multiple. It's drawing multiple instances on top, one on top of the other. So my question isn't I try again to make it only respond after I posted all things, but that doesn't seem to work. Maybe I'm doing it wrong. So my question is wrong. Oh, and it first says I only shared one class, but I shared three classes. And then it suddenly can read all three of them. So then it quickly analyzes what the three classes do, and then the reasons why it might only see one instance draw, but like I said, it's multiple on top of each other. It's something about the curly braces, too many, and then ensuring that the draw method is implemented correctly in the grid hexagon culture accorder and other classes that I reference. I didn't post them, I think. No, and that's yeah. If the draw method is currently implemented, check the position calculations in the draw method of each class. Position are calculated correctly. Yeah, that's the element might overlap. That's what's going on, giving the appearance that only one instance is drawn. To further debug and resolve this, please share the complete code for grid hexagon culture coordinates corridors on classes, along with other blah blah. But I do love it that it asks me to share a whole bunch of classes. It's cool. One reason for merging some of my classes would be that it would be far more easy to post it to ChatGPT. So here I ask if it can tell me more about the relationship between the draw method, the shape class, and objects. So this is just a very generalized explanation of some Java concept. I probably said it before, but I really do love ChatGPT for this kind of thing. Especially when you're learning, yeah, you always have to be on the lookout for that it can talk nonsense sometimes, but mostly in these generalized kinds of thing, it's just like a talking encyclopedia which gives example code for the specific questions, etc. It's really, I think it's pretty great. Yeah, so here I decide to ask ChatGPT the question what I was talking about. How about drawing objects in an array like a game board? Are the positions, missing an S, are the positions of objects on screen defined within the objects, or are they a function of the rendering process? At this point, I'm still very confused about it, apparently. So it says it's a combination of both object properties and the rendering process. I don't know, it will give me a general explanation. So it can have properties that define its position within the game board, like the X and Y coordinates, or row and column in a 2D array. That's the WH I use all the time. Please represent the logical position, blah, blah, blah. Rendering process. When you render the game board, you can use the object's position properties to calculate the actual screen coordinates. And that's what I do with my transform XY. This can take into account. Oh, it's gone. Come back. This calculation can take into account the size of the game board, tile size, screen scaling, of course, like when you change the size of the screen it's displayed on, or even zooming in or out, or maybe even when you use it 3D to move the perspective, etc. Yeah, and then the layout. Mine is hexagonal. It's talking about rectangular, isometric, hexagonal. And then it gives a simple example of rendering objects in a game board using a 2D array. Oh yeah, there you have it. A generalized example of what it all does and means, how it's done. This specific example is a pretty different than the one I use, but globally the same principles. And here apparently for the first time I'm trying to give it a thumbs up, or they changed the thingy, because I'm like, what's feedback? Feedback? Apparently it's a good idea to give a thumbs up if you're happy with the answer. There's my transformation method again. So I switch on the method for the transformation in the draw function and get and delete my text. Problem solved. Running the code again. Putting the, what is it called? Putting the textures back on. I had the old transformation set XY for WH, the coordinates to screen coordinates transformation method in my board shape abstract class, but now that I understand it's only needed to draw stuff on screen, and I have it in the board elements draw function, I throw them away here, clean up some stuff, very useful, clean up some other stuff. Yeah, I have all kinds of commented out code. Some comment about the method I have here that does work, as far as I know, that it might not work, etc. But yeah, further I go along, I have all kinds of experiments in commented out code. Now I'm advancing a bit and learning more. I can sometimes safely and confidently throw away some old stuff and some old comments about questions I needed still to address myself, etc. So in my the current way I draw my board, um, I'm missing the corridors on the left and the bottom because I want all the circles, all the cultures to be enclosed by the corridor tiles, the nature tiles. See myself indicated with the mouse there. So I need to change not something as far as I know in the initialization of the board, but in yes, no, I don't want them to be there. I don't just want them to be invisible. I don't want them in the array, of course, because I don't want that they are counted as neighbors or any other in those functions, or as a place you can move to. Well, it's not being drawn. So here in draw board, let's see if I get that right. Because in draw board I have a -1 and a, yeah. So I was going to work on placing the first unit, but I'm getting distracted by all kinds of other stuff. Well, it's good cleaning up a bit, and what I'm doing now is pretty important as well, because now I have a grid that it consists of like one of the hexagons with one of the rounds on there in one grid position, which both of them have the same grid coordinates, in fact, but one is one type and the other is the other type. But like here in board, I do the loop, the for W is 1, and I start at board height -1 instead of starting at 0 and just ending at the total board height. So, but this is in the draw function, so I draw less than that I have in the array. So that, like I said, for game functionality, that could pose a problem when it is counted as a position or as existent in the array. So I think if I remember correctly, it's been a while, but I think I find that out. Maybe not right away, but I should change that in the board initialization and not in the drawing. Yeah, now I'm going to the init random board method, as far as I know. Yeah, the initialize board starts at 0 and ends at the board height. So that's the way it's supposed to be. No, that's not the way it's supposed to be if I want to change the setup of the board. So yeah, I start to take out the where it starts later and ends sooner. Right, so now it's drawing the entire array for 6 by 6. And then I start to adapt the initialization of the board. And I do the same thing, start one later and end one sooner. And then I have errors, of course, because yeah, that would mean I would create two rows less of entire also of the grid with everything in it. That's not the idea. I just want to create I think one row of grids, one row of only the nature tiles. Oh, here I put it back in the drawer. Okay, so I did understand that I should draw everything. So I switched it back on to draw everything in the array. Initializing the array also. Put everything back on. Oh, I was messing around with the transformation method again for some reason, trying something out for some reason. Useful for anything I put in comments? No, I don't think so, but it was useful for testing. The funny part is when I put it in the constructor there, it's only transformed once. I think. Okay, so there it's drawing everything again. 6 by 6. Seem to have decided to ask the ChatGPT how to do that. I want to make the culture tile conditional. So I posted in the same chat where I posted the board class and the board elements and probably the grid class. Okay, so that's what I want to do. I want to make the culture tile conditional if W is 0, so the first row. The grid hexagon has no culture tile, and if H, the height, so those would be the rows. Yes, no, columns, rows. Yeah, that would be the rows. Oh yeah, so yeah, that's the leftmost column and the lower row. I only want the corridor tile, the nature, and not the culture. How would I write this in the constructor? Why do I want to do that in the constructor? One way to do this is by using an if-else statement to check whether W and H meet the conditions you specified. Yeah, because I put that all together in the board class, I think I should do that there. Yes, great. So if else, yeah, if that's null and age is board height equal to board height, then culture tile is null. And this point culture tile, that's because I used culture and corridor tile as an argument for each grid. A way of doing it that I don't like, and which I'm going to change, because it just has each grid hexagon just has air quotes one culture and one corridor tile, and I don't need, as far as I know, that I don't need it in the arguments. It's just way more, yeah, it seems overly cumbersome. Doesn't change. It's just that does get assigned a random terrain, but that's all. So I put it in like it said. I put it in the constructor, which breaks everything. Well, so I right away I decide to post the what is it, console output, the error messages I'm getting. I got this error in the board class. Isn't there a way to use a try function in this case? Oh, I had a no pointer exception. Oh yeah, that's funny. Now I set some of the tiles to a value of null because I don't create them. But then my draw method and maybe other methods, other things, find a null value, so I get a null point exception. It's about here that I start to use that a bit. I wasn't even aware of its existence before. Probably ChatGPT gave me that knowledge as well, because I was doing something else, and I start to use that a bit more, because if not every time I do something like that, I get that yeah, the code won't run because there's a no pointer exception, because for example this draw method finds some null value and it's just error all the way down. So if blah blah is not null, not is null in fact, so I just put that code in my draw board function, but of course that doesn't work because that's not a value in here this way, or maybe it's in the error, not sure. Right, I just tell them if the array is not null, then it works, but I have five. I have one row less, one column less at least. So now I decided to put the is not null around the culture tile draw. I'm pretty amazed, by the way, in retrospect, that get culture tile type worked. Yeah, I had a point too many. That wasn't working. So, wow. So that actually worked, that in the constructor I tell it to not give it a culture tile, and now I tell it to draw everything and not draw, yeah, just ignore the null value, which is great. So it doesn't exist now anymore, and now I need to take out the lower row of circles. What am I doing? I'm taking an H is null. I'm taking out the upper row. Yeah. Okay. No, I don't. I need the board height when it's. That was right. Why doesn't it work? That's the question. Oh yeah, I used the end. I think this means if W is equal to 0 and is this and no, this is and or I think. And I don't remember, so I asked ChatGPT what it actually means, that operator. I think here, yes. Not sure what that does. Or, oh, it's just or. Yeah, I understand what or means. But so then it's if that is true or that is true. Yeah, so it just checks whether either one is true. Shouldn't it work then? Not sure. So then I put if board height -1, and that works. Why does it work? Oula. No, I'm not sure why this works, in fact. If it is -1 board height. Oh yes, of course I understand. It is because it starts at 0. So my board height is 6 in this case, which means it's going from 0 to 5. So it has to, I can play again. It has to be when the board height is equal to 5, it has to not do it. And that's because it started 0. That's why. So it goes from 0 to 5 with the board height and width, the 6. They're both 6 in this case. That's just the loop goes for 6 iterations, but it all starts at 0, so it goes maximum to 5. So that's why it's board height -1. Yeah. That's sometimes it's hard on the brain, but when I was doing that, I apparently I understood. So now I have this little thingy on the left, the lower left corner. That's weird sticking out, and I want to get rid of that as well because that's not needed to enclose all the circles with the nature, and it looks stupid. So then I will just make, like I said, every position is a grid, and in the other ones I wanted a grid without a circle, but in this case I don't want a tile at all. So I'm gonna say that when it's in the first column and in the last row, I don't want a grid at all. I don't want it to generate anything. I was very happy when I did it. It was a little, it's a small thing, but yeah, I never had. It's just like for me, it's in this at this moment, it's more of a cosmetic touch, but it's also functionality, of course. But it's like, yeah, okay, implementing if statement in the code, etc. And yeah, it just felt satisfying. So yeah, that's fine. What do I say? If it's not 0, and if it's not, I'm telling it if it's not that position, you can go ahead and do the others. Putting it in a negation. Culture tile type. Oh yeah, it's having a no exception because I put in the, what is it? The try. I told it if there's no if the culture tile type is 0, you don't draw. And here I have to tell it if there's no corridor tab to not freak out. But like I said, I'm in retrospect, I'm pretty amazed that my get culture tell type method actually works, actually returns something. And the corridor tab probably as well. The method to get the, by the way, I have a get random assigned culture tell here. Not sure if I need that method anyway. So I definitely did something wrong here. Oh yeah, I tried to tell it if any grid position returns null, if it isn't null you can draw, otherwise you don't draw. But I think I didn't put the brackets right as well. I think I finally saw the light to see the comparison effect with the grid constructor, where I tell it that the culture tile is null in case, and here I want the grid array to contain null, to be a zero variable, be null when it's row column 0 and the last row. So right there I found it. That was the trick. So yeah, I really like playing around with those conditional thingies. It finally feels a bit like programming, but yeah, it's weird. I'm weird like that, maybe. So yeah, looks better. Looks a bit weirdy like this, but better than with the empty appendix over there, I think. So finally back to the units placement of the units. What was supposed to be what I wanted to work on. In the end, this video was more of an addition to the video where last video where I implemented the grid with just some fine tuning to the grid and the tiles. But now I'm asking ChatGPT about some code snippet earlier on in this conversation. Not sure what I was doing. It's using the, oh yeah, right. Some basic, really rudimentary code about an array list and how to add and remove units and to retrieve units out of the list. Some code for filtering units by type. Some classes that define specific unit. A specific unit. And some stuff that I could put in the main. Well, it's just in instantiation of objects, and then add them to the list, and then use that method to get units by type, and then some output. I really need to learn to use some text generated output to check if my code is working. I need to get in the habit of that, because especially the stuff that's coming, sometimes I don't even know if it does something. So it's a great way to check if your code does something when it's not represented on screen. I mean, on the game board, it's not always represented in graphics, especially those listy kind of things or whatever, or like selecting a tile, stuff that I use. So yeah, next video I will be starting trying to place the units, create the lists, etc., etc. Thanks for watching and see you next time. Bye bye.